Hi, everyone. This is Cindy Gardner with iPEC Coaching, and I am pleased today to be talking with Alan Cohen, one of iPEC's graduates. And Alan, welcome.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be interviewed for this segment, and I love iPEC, and it's just a great opportunity to talk to the community and you and the graduates and everyone. So thank you.
Well, fantastic. Well, then let's rock and roll here. And I'd love to start out, Alan, by having you share with everyone when it is that you completed your iPEC training.
Absolutely. So I believe that I graduated in 2007, and I was in a New York class, and Mark Shaw was my trainer, and Deb Vandegrift, and it was a wonderful experience.
Excellent. Well, you certainly had excellent trainers, as all of our trainers are. And so you obviously have a coaching business today, Alan, and I know you provide many different services to your clients. And so what is the name of your business, and what kind of clients do you work with? Like, what's your niche and your specialty?
Okay, great. So I'm a partner in a firm, the Cohen Group, and we focus on business coaching, communications coaching, some consulting, and training. Mm-hmm. And our clients are small business owners, entrepreneurs. I personally do a lot of work with public relations agencies and public relations professionals because that was my previous career.
So great. So what I hear you saying is that you brought what you've done in your prior life or career into what you're doing in your work today with your clients as coaches, consultants, which is really great, and that you have a very specific niche and specialty that you're working with, which is really important to us as coaches. So kudos to you for that, Alan.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, absolutely. And so when it came to doing a coach training program and to become certified as a coach, I'm curious for you to share here why it was that you chose iPEC, how that came to be.
Yeah, it's actually a very simple answer. I'm highly intuitive, mm-hmm. and I tend not to do a lot of research. I just kind of go with my gut. And I met a fellow who had gone through the training. I met him socially, and I was just so intrigued by what he told me about his experience and what he was doing. And I'd always been very interested in personal and professional development, and had done some seminars and things. But there was something about him and what he told me about iPEC that really resonated for me. And so I enrolled in that one day in a module, and then at that point you decide if you want to continue through. And I knew really within hours that I was going to go through the entire training. I think I had maybe checked out one other program. I think I audited something at another school, and I just knew it wasn't for me. I loved the iPEC experience. I loved the people that I had met in that class, and some of them I'm still very much in touch with, and that's 7 or 8 years ago. So yeah, intuitively, I just felt like it was going to be the right choice for me.
Well, that's something I heard you say that definitely resonates, that the people that you meet through the course of the training are people that do indeed become lifelong friends because of this deep and profound experience that we all go through together. And I heard you say that there was just an inner knowing, an intuitive hit that you had around knowing that this was a program that you wanted to continue with after the first 3 days of your training. Yeah. What was it beyond that inner knowing, Alan, that you could share in that experience of training that had you say, yeah, this is the program for me. This is the one that I'm going to go through to be certified as a coach?
It's a great question. I have a really, really strong value around connection, and I'll talk about that in a bit, as it relates to a lot of the work that I do as a coach and some of the other things that I'm creating. And I just felt a really strong sense of connection to the other students in the class that I went through. There were a number of people there who had a good balance of corporate and business experience, but also very, very interested in personal growth and development. There was I practice very holistically, so the spiritual aspect of the program and the spiritual aspect of the other students that I met who were asking themselves some of the difficult questions and thinking about how they could bring that into their professional experience. That really resonated with me, and it was really fun. I mean, Mark Schall's hysterical. It was just a great, and actually years later, Cindy, I became a trainer and worked with Mark for a couple of years for iPEC. So I just felt, there was just something about it. The foundation principles really resonated for me. I've done so much spiritual and personal growth work, and I just thought, sometimes you just feel like you're home, and that's how I felt when I was in that room. I felt like I was home.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. What a great way to describe it, and that feeling of being home and really resonating with a group of folks that kind of like your tribe. And I know, Alan, when you talk about that spiritual connection too, it's about not as we might traditionally think, spiritually, but more about connecting passion and purpose.
Yeah.
Right. So on that.
Yeah, they were the group that I was in. People really, it sounds so trite, but it's not. They really wanted to make a difference in the world, and they wanted to bring their gifts to a greater good, and that really spoke to me. Really spoke to me.
Wow, terrific. So, Alan, there's sort of this journey that we go through where it's, that period in our lives prior to our certification training with iPEC, and then there's the segment of our actual certification, and then there's life after certification, and what we then do with what we've learned and go out into the world and what we do. Can you describe that sort of pre, during, and after journey for yourself with us, Alan?
Sure. It was and is an interesting journey. One of the programs that my company sponsors is called Evolving Entrepreneur, and because I really do believe that we are always growing, always changing, always evolving. So my story, thank goodness, continues to evolve and change. So the trajectory of my story has lots of kinds of interesting twists and turns. But to kind of put it into a nutshell, I worked in public relations as both the PR on the PR agency side and also as a PR in-house corporate communications person. And when I had some really significant accomplishments in that career, most notably, I was the director of publicity at Scholastic Publishing, and was the first PR person in the United States to work on the Harry Potter books. And I was really at the top of my game at that point. I can't imagine any PR person working on a book series like that wouldn't have felt the same way. It was an amazing time in my life, and I think that probably a part of me knew after having done that and achieved that there weren't a lot of hills left for me to climb in terms of PR. When you get have the cover of Time and Newsweek in the same month for your property, that's pretty amazing. And that as a marketing person yourself, it's it was a real high. But at that point also, I'd been at Scholastic for many, many years, and they paid for my master's in business, and I moved around within the company. And so after I did the marketing and PR job, I really was very interested in having a human resources / training and development role, because I was always more interested in raising talent, bringing people up around me, leading teams and helping others grow. Mm-hmm. And so when I had the opportunity to move into another division, I took it, and I learned a lot. And as things happen in the corporate world, there were huge layoffs. I think at that time, 500 people got laid off from Scholastic, and I was in HR, and I think I was like one of the first people to go. So it was kind of an existential, like, what did I do, right? 20, how many years of PR, and then I moved into HR, and then they kind of pulled the rug out of me, out from under me. But I used that time to reflect and did some freelancing and kind of, bounced around a little bit, and then and took another PR job, and in a great area in entertainment, which is really my sweet spot. And but I tell you, Cindy, something happened. Again, I was probably at that job for about 4 years, and there's that moment, that real moment of clarity. And I tell this story often that I was doing the PR for the Broadway producers, and we had to deal with crisis communications around the stagehand strike that shut down Broadway for a couple of months, and it was horrible. And I was doing a great job, and I was getting high-fived all over the place for the great job that I was doing, and I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. I thought, if this is the height, I don't want any part of it. And I think I had put on a huge amount of weight, and I just remember one day, we had to do an impromptu press conference, and I dropped my pencil on the floor, and I bent down, and my pants ripped up the back. And I thought, like, this is a sign. This is like,
that was a sign. Okay.
I do not want to be doing this. But sort of in that same period of time, I had enrolled in iPEC training. So I was doing the training program part-time while I was working full-time. And in that moment, Luke talks about that inflection point, right? In that moment, I said, I am going to, my plan is to leave this job and start my own business. And I had and have an entrepreneurial spirit. I knew what it was like to run a freelance PR business, and I thought maybe I could leverage that as a coach. And so a couple of weeks before the Tony Awards, which was the big thing for the agency that I was with, I walked into my boss's office and I said, I'll work through the Tony Awards, but I'm going to pursue a full-time career as a coach. And that's what I did. And the funny thing, Cindy, is that I left, in many ways, naive, pretty fearless, and I left the job, and it was like the bottom fell out of the economy right at that moment. It was the big Wall Street crisis. And fortunately, that opportunity presented itself, or I created opportunity because I started doing a lot of career coaching at that moment. I met someone through networking. I have a pretty vast network, and started doing some career coaching for this individual's company. And there were a lot of people out of work looking for jobs. So first year I did pretty well. And then and working with a coach, I identified that what I really wanted to be doing, or where I felt like I really could be, have a business, would be to go and work with and coach PR agency people, and in communications and leadership, and also do training in those firms, because I did have a training background. So, and that paid off beautifully, and that's something that's a gift that continues to give. I still that's very much a part of what I do, and so that that's really kind of there were other transitions within that time. Over the past year, I partnered with a woman who has more of a consulting background, and we've grown our business together, where I focus more on the coaching and training piece of it. She focuses more on consulting and business strategy, and we've started bringing in engaging with some coaches, so we have scale, so we're able to say yes to a lot more things. And and it's been great. There was one moment about 2 years ago where I was frustrated because I didn't feel like my business was growing as fast or as big as I wanted to. And I went back to, I took another corporate job and went back to a PR agency because one of my clients invited me to come work in-house. And sometimes in order to know what you really want and who you really are, you need to see what you really aren't. And I lasted a year, Cindy, and it was, what I learned is I am truly an entrepreneur. I value freedom, autonomy, creativity, and the ability to be who I am and do what I want to do, with no holds barred. And so I left that job after a year with integrity and rebooted my business, and now playing a much bigger game. So it's been quite a ride.
Quite a ride indeed, and there's a lot in that journey that you just described. So thank you for that. And there's not any other story that I've had in the many stories and sharing that I've done with so many of our coaches, so many of our students and graduates. None of them have included Harry Potter, so that was really cool. And what's great in your story is that no matter the places of success that we get to in our careers and what we're doing, there comes that point, as you described, Alan, of inner knowing that there's something more for me. There's something different for me. I want to make a contribution. And what I'm doing right now isn't it. It's not getting it for me. And that coaching was a vehicle for you to really discover that, and how you could take that and use that as a platform of contribution with your clients and with the people in your life. And beyond that, to get to a place of pure creation, to really get, hey, I'm at the cause of my life, and I get to create whatever it is that I want for myself and my life. And that while you become a coach through the process of the iPEC training, one of the things that you absolutely get along the way is this great awareness of that, of being at the cause of your life and not at the effect. And I just love the way that you describe that. And even going back into a corporate setting, it's like, no, again, I know that, I value freedom. I want to be in a very different kind of place, and saying, okay, I'm going to go off and create that. So,
yeah. And actually, I have no regrets whatsoever that I did that. I in fact, I'm really grateful that I didn't do that. Others might label that a real misstep or a mistake or whatever. For me, I'm so glad, because now when I have those rough days, or when business isn't flowing the way that I'd like it, or I just remind myself, you can always go back and work for somebody else, and you remember what that was like. Right. And I'm a true creative. Like, I just love that every day that I wake up, there's this like blank canvas, and I get to just put my brush to it and create whatever it is that I want. And that's so exciting. I think when coaches start really thinking about themselves as entrepreneurs, that's when the true magic happens, because the sky's the limit, and it's only us that gets in the way.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's only us that gets in the way. And as you said, use that phrase that you're now playing a much bigger game, and looking at what you've taken with coaching and going out there and creating a business as an entrepreneur, much bigger game that you're playing, and definitely in that space of contribution. So all of that said, Alan, what would you say is your key to success?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think on the coaching side, I think it is a pretty keen, intuitive sense of people, and an ability to develop rapport pretty quickly. And for a very long time, I used to kind of downplay that, like, well, doesn't everybody have that? And I think we all have those gifts, and we don't necessarily see them as gifts because they come so easily to us. And I've been able to do that since I was, my parents tell me, since I was a little kid. So I think that, and then in terms of kind of content development, and I think being very creative has helped me create some really cool programs and a cool approach to coaching. I think on the business side and on the business development side, I think the fact that I've got this vast network that I have nurtured over many years has really served me well. I'm still learning how to ask for things and how to truly leverage those relationships. I know I am very grateful that I have as wonderful a network as I do, and then I think also is to really stay curious and stay humble and to ask for help, because we can't do this alone. And I partner with somebody who's very strong in process and operations and systems, which is something that is not my core strength. I have a lot of other things that I bring to the fore. So just those things, and really investing in my business. Sometimes experiencing some pain around that, when the expenses are a little outpacing the revenue. But I know that the reason that I've been able to grow the way that I have been is because I have invested in my business as a business.
Right, absolutely. And in the way you just answer that question, it's great, because the question was about your key ingredient for success. And what you actually described was more of a formula for success. A little bit of this, it's a little bit of this.
Right. I wish I could say it was one thing. Right.
But it is a formula. And, I think, Alan, anyone who is listening to this conversation can hear that you just have great energy, great enthusiasm, great motivation, a pretty inspiring kind of guy. So the question is, what is it that drives you to do what you do day in and day out?
Yeah, well, it kind of changes. I'm always in awe of those people who can answer that question so with such clarity. It's pretty clear for me today that what drives me is having freedom. That to be able to work with whomever I want to work with, to create what I want to create, to be able to work from where I want to work. Right now, I'm really focused on building a speaking career. I'm working on a book. What drives me right now is to be able to get booked as a speaker and travel all over the place and be able to take my family with me so we can see some really cool things. That's kind of what, and to be able to provide for my family and to be able to contribute, but also to be able to be present for them. Because I could go back and do very well in a corporate setting, and but not necessarily have the same kind of freedom that I have to be able to take a 3-day weekend when I want to, or slip out during the afternoon to go see my nephew or play with my nephew in the park or whatever I want to do.
Or a 10-day weekend if you wanted to.
Or a 10-day weekend, right, exactly. Or a working vacation if I want to, and be able to work from anywhere. So that's kind of cool too.
So if we were to connect that into coaching, everything that you just described about what drives you, how does coaching make that possible to actually have all that?
Yeah, well, it completely makes it possible, right? It's a portable lifestyle. There's so much freedom in this chosen profession. I'm really selective about who I work with right now, and and what I've learned is that I have to be who I am. I have to show up completely authentically, no apologies, and I'm meant to work with some people and some people not so much. And so coaching just gives me all of that freedom, and that I will attract the clients I'm meant to work with. I'll be able to work with them where I want to, when I want to, how I want to. That's a beautiful thing. I don't know that everybody can say that about their chosen profession.
Yeah, that is a beautiful thing, and dovetails so nicely with the value that I hear around freedom that you have, and everything else really that you've described.
Yeah. Yeah, and to kind of qualify that, I think a lot of people they are entrepreneurs, and because they want freedom, but they create businesses that don't really allow them the freedom. And sometimes working on your own or having your own business can feel rather imprisoning if you don't set some boundaries for yourself and partner with people and really put some focus around collaboration and all that. So I've learned that over the years. I have a bunch of isms, Cindy. I know you're going to ask me a question about some of the obstacles and challenges. But I've had my addictions in my life, and and a long time recovery. But I still can very easily default into workaholism and perfectionism and just taking on too much ism. So I've really had to manage that so that I can have freedom.
And, yeah. So, and that obviously takes something, and for you to be where you are now, and those challenges, or as we like to call them in iPEC, opportunities, they're there for us at every turn, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say, Alan, as we wrap up here today, is the most valuable lesson that you've learned on your journey to success as a coach?
Well, so many things, right? To narrow it down to one. I think it's been a process for me to move from a scarcity mindset to a true mindset of abundance. And having come from a corporate environment where it was a little bit dog eat dog and competitive, to be building something where you really see the world through that lens of abundance, that's been valuable to me. I will say that it is kind of a one day at a time thing, because I can easily slip into that, why is he, why is that guy, why does it look like that guy's getting all the business, or why is she getting all the prominent visibility, but we know compare and despair. So how do I put the focus back on abundance and what I can create and how I can actually show up for other people and help support them? So there's plenty for all of us, and that's a reminder for me every day.
Absolutely. And I think that is a beautiful message to end on. There's plenty for all of us. And with that, Alan, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And I'm sure many will benefit from hearing about your journey. So from my heart to yours, I thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much.